guys, Goresh from 59 Gaming here, and in today's video I am going to be joined by two very special guests as we discuss both the ups and downs associated with the Pokemon trading card game that transpired over the past year. If you guys haven't already done so, please consider going down and clicking that red subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you're always in the loop about content that we upload to the channel here. If you guys like the video, like what you see, don't be afraid to go ahead and click that like button as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the discussion here. Hey guys, 59 Gaming here, back with another Pokemon video, and today we are going to be discussing the Pokemon trading card game. I am extremely excited to announce that I have two actual real-life Pokemon masters with me here. We have both Leonhart and Rhymestyle on the channel today. Why don't you both go ahead and say hello? I just wanted to thank you both a lot for coming on today. It's extremely humbling to be joined by both of you today.
Leonhart, you can go first if you want.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that honor. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name's Leonhart. I like shiny cardboard, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And my name's Rhymestyle. I also like shiny cardboard. And this Pokemon trading card game thing you're talking about, Goresh, it sounds fun. What is it?
Yeah. So basically, if you guys aren't aware of what the Pokemon trading card game is, it came out back. I think it was the late '90s. I'm somebody who's followed it for a long time. I used to collect the cards back when I was a kid, but I've obviously fallen off since then. But I do keep up with the actual, what's been coming out, what kind of sets are out, what the trading card game looks like from a collector standpoint. I don't actually play the game myself, and that's what the theme of today's video is going to be. It's going to be how, over the course of the past few years, the game that has transpired in terms of a collector. There's obviously been a huge uptick in popularity for the card game. And so that's going to segue basically into the first point that I want to discuss here is obviously we've seen just massive upticks in popularity for this card game. And what do you guys think is the real catalyst for that? This is just going to be an informal discussion, nothing super structured or anything like that. So if you want to just jump in and say anything at any time, just let me know. But that's what I wanted to start with here.
There's a lot of different catalysts out there for why it blew up in popularity. But honestly, I think what it is everybody grew up with it. Because like growing up, you always knew that sports cards were worth a lot of money. You get that right, player. Wait a couple years, that card is going to explode in popularity and value. But it's also sports. Not saying sports is a bad thing, but like not everybody grew up with sports. But I feel like everybody, especially in our generation, they grew up with Pokemon. And even today, the new generations are growing with Pokemon. It's like a rite of passage, basically. So I think what happened is over the course of the past 2 years, especially in the last year, a lot of people realized, hey, I have that card in my closet somewhere, and they found it and they realized it's worth how much? And then, with all the big figures getting behind it, from like Gary Vee to the Logan Paul box break and getting a lot of eyes on it, it caused a huge boom in the popularity of the game. I mean, I like to look at like the values of stuff and see how much it's changed to show you how much growth there was. But I remember literally like, I want to say mid 2019, I was talking to Logic and I'm like, hey man, if you want to make a purchase, you should buy a first edition base box. He goes, how much is it? I'm like, 60 grand. He goes, ooh, nah, I think I'll pass. I'm like, trust me, 60 grand sounds crazy, but it's going to be like 4x that later. And Leonhart, how much are these boxes selling for now? Like 400, 500 grand? Like it shows you the growth.
Right about $500,000 for a first edition base set box is like
it's crazy.
Approximately the value of it now.
Yeah, I remember. So the story with the Charizard and Logic is I remember I told him how much it was a couple months later, and he goes, "Wait, what? Okay, I want a Charizard." And I'm like, "Okay, let's start you easy. Maybe we'll get you like a base unlimited Charizard." He goes, "No, I want the best one." I'm like, "You don't want that. We're talking about like 150 to 200 grand if you want that." He goes, "I want it. Find it." And I'm like, not exactly that easy, because I mean, number one, there is the value behind it, but it's also going to be one of those things where you're not even going to find it. Ironically, one went on auction around that time, and I remember he calls me up and he goes, "Do I do this? Should I do this? Like, is this stupid?" I'm like, you know what? If I had your money, I absolutely would have already done it like years ago. And then he did it, and we watched, and of course, that's when the news broke that he bought the Charizard for 180 grand, and I think with fees it's like $224,000. And that Charizard today is like almost close to $400,000. I think the most recent sales
were... it's like right about 400,000, and that was also like the same night that I think Logan was doing his first box break.
Yeah.
When that auction was closing, right?
Yep. Because I remember he was in the chat watching as well. Basically, Pokemon is just like, the thing is like people will be like, why are you guys wasting your money on all this cardboard? It's like, it's not about the cardboard, it's about what these cards mean. It's like, you grew up with these. When you hold these cards and you look at them, it's like a time capsule. You're remembering that time when it was most pure for you as a kid, where nothing really mattered except for, you know, open up a pack of cards, playing games, and hanging out with your friends. That's what these represent, and that's why, you know, there's so much value behind this. It's sentimental value. Like, we grew up with these. And that's why, like, a lot of people came back to it today and they're just like, man, I want them. And the other thing is like, you know, as time passes, you're gonna get more people that have more and more money. I think there's like more millionaires every single year. And what happens after these millionaires get bored? They, you know, they buy their cars, they buy their houses, they buy whatever, and then it's like, well, what else is next? Collectibles, and that's when they go back to stuff like this.
Right.
Which is great. Like, everything you're saying is right, and kind of going on that, you know, collectibles, alternative assets, because, you know, it's sports cards, comics, bunches of things, but kind of going back to your point and adding on to what he was saying of like kind of why things happen. Like, the vintage collecting world started getting more popular in 2019, actually. So when 2020 came around, was the absolute perfect storm, or not perfect storm, of more demand than ever of people wanting to collect cards again, because you're stuck indoors because of the pandemic, and they're getting bored finding their old cards again. And here we have Pokemon is now struggling to produce for modern sets. They were struggling. They had to allegedly close several warehouses down, almost running out of paper to try to keep up with the demand, because of, you know, and it was not just paper that was affected, the pandemic was affecting. So demand, it was I can't even say the word right now. Basically, supply and demand. Basic economics. I said it. Thank you. That was basically what was going on. So here you have a perfect storm happening, and then, as Rhyme was saying, a bunch of bigger names were getting into it, but it was not just for, smart investment purposes. It really was about the fact that nostalgia is the big word here, is that, a lot of us weren't able to, collect the cards that we wanted to when we were younger, whether you were not able to pull it or, you simply didn't have the resources to buy cards. But now we do. Now more people around our age have that discretionary income to be able to go after these cards that do have that, symbolic value to you, that nostalgic value to you. So with the pandemic, with the increased demand in the low supply, it was just the perfect storm of, the ultimate hype to, kind of leading to where things have been.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I remember back when I was growing up, like Saturday mornings, I'd go to baseball practice or whatever it was, and then afterwards we'd stop at EB games, and that's where I'd buy my packs. I'd buy 1 or 2 base packs or whatever it was back then.
Oh, nice.
And it's looking at that and what that's become over the past year or so, it's absolutely ridiculous. The base pack that I bought for $2 from EB Games or GameStop or whatever it was back then is now worth $1,000+ and that's absurd.
Does it have its price tag still on it? Because I always found that so awesome when you still see the $2.99 or $3.99 price tag with the name of the store, KB Toys, on it.
Oh, I don't have the packs. I'm just talking about
when I was like, he probably doesn't even have the packs anymore.
No, I'm just talking about when I would go and open them. Yeah, it was crazy because I'd buy them, I'd walk on the street, I'd open them on the street, and I'd just I'd toss the wrapper out, which is probably worth something
like
now.
Any normal kid would do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to me that's actually happened. And one thing I do want to point out is that I'm taking these numbers from Cerebi actually published these. And when you think about Pokemon, most people think about the games or the show or the anime, right? I think this is a fact that I saw the other day and I was stunned by this. So the video game franchise, over the course of the past fiscal year for them, made around $380 million. That's a lot. And you compare that to the card game, the TCG. The TCG in the past fiscal year made approximately $34 billion, which, if you compare that to the
year?
Yeah, the past year, yep. So if you compare that to the prior fiscal year, that's an increase of approximately $4 billion. So it's a significant increase, right? And I think a lot of what we were talking about just now is a factor that played into that jump. But again, if you talk about that compared to the video game revenue, it's a completely different world, right?
It is, and a lot of that has to go to distribution. of how many people were wanting to place orders for the different cards. And, you know, with more people wanting to do it than ever, you know, for the modern sets, a lot of the distributors, excuse me, were not even able to get as much because of the, you know, supply issues. Like, imagine if they were able to actually print as much as they had wanted to, but then they wouldn't be realistically in that situation because of the pandemic not being there, you know? If it wasn't there, would there have been as much, you know, increase in hype? I wonder.
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. It's something we might never know the answer to, just because everything that's happened, right? Something I also want to ask, and I'm not really sure, because I mean, I follow the TCG, but I'm not super involved with it. In terms of like the value of these cards, right? I mean, I talk to my friends about this in real life who actually do collect these, and they're like, you know, oh, you know, there's only a finite amount of, you know, base set packs. There's only a finite amount of boxes. So eventually these are going to run out, right? It's not like there's an infinite amount of sealed product because they just don't make it anymore.
So no one knows the. I'm sorry. Were you finished with your question? So
No. I was just bringing up the point so we can discuss whatever you want.
So sealed product. So no one really knows the exact amount of like how much was made. I'm doing my best actually to figure out the exact numbers. So stay tuned on that.
Right.
However, of like how many base sets were printed, blah blah blah, from Wizards of the Coast originally back then. So my thing is sealed product is going to continue to go up because, like you said, once it runs out, it's done. However, people are still finding, boxes in their attic and storages and stuff, which is pretty exciting. So there is plenty still out there, but it is getting open. And once that runs out, it's out. And I'd like to get Rhyme's opinion on this as well too for the grading cards, because what do you think is going to happen when more cards are getting back into the market, especially like the lower graded cards? Everybody was getting their cards graded after seeing the hype with it, so they were getting like cards that are not even in the best condition graded, or like tons of base set cards. So it's like, I think the 9s and 10s of the world are gonna, they may go down, but then eventually they're gonna start going up again. But I'm just kind of curious with the flood of more cards that are getting graded coming back, because there was the holdup with PSA and everything. Like, how do you think that's how things are gonna be?
Do you want to know how bad the holdup of that is? So I sent a bunch of submissions of August of 2020, and they were put in the system like a month later, and they had the 5 million certs. Today they're at like 6.3. That means they were backed up that badly, and they're still backed up, by the way. So by the time they finish that wave of cards before they open up, they're probably gonna be in the 7 million range, if I can be honest with you. But it's funny you mentioned that. The thing is this is why people want first edition cards so badly over unlimited, because first edition had way less in print. That's why like everybody's going after the first edition Shadowless Charizards, because like they know that less these exist. But what people also don't realize is you have unlimited cards, certain unlimited cards that are in less circulation. So for example, I love Neo Genesis. This Neo Genesis Unlimited has some of the lowest pop in existence. This Typhlosion right here, there's 4 of these. And this, by the way, to kind of explain why grading cards is so huge, if you get a card graded and it comes back as a PSA 10, which is this number up here, it means it's in pretty much perfect condition. It's not always perfect. Every now and then, both grading companies, or all the grading companies, they may miss one thing, but in general, it's as good as it gets. When you have a card that's graded, it tells you how many exist. There's 4 of these. And I know one person that owns 2, and I know another person that owns the 4th one. It's like knowing the idea that you own a card that everybody wants, but nobody can get because the pop is so low, is what causes the value to shoot up. But still, no one talks about unlimited cards as much because it doesn't have that first edition stamp. But the thing is the first edition stamps usually end up having way higher pops. It's still fairly low, but it's still super high. So like right now what's happening is as you said, everybody is finding their cards, they're sending them in regardless of what condition they are. And this is why I believe PSA got so backed up. I always say either grade a card that has sentimental value to you, like say you grew up with it. I know when I finished, when I got rid of all my Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was younger, I had 2 cards that stayed in my collection. It was a Slifer and an Obelisk from like the GBI cards, the promo cards. And I knew that when I got them graded, years ago, they weren't going to be best grades. They were like a 6 and a 5. That's how bad they were. But they had sentimental value to me. Now, if you find a card that has like really, really good condition, like it's like you see no scratches, you see no whitening, send it in. But the thing is, this is like I've been seeing a lot of PSA grade return videos in like my recommended in like the last year from like various content creators and people who are just grading cards for people, and they're always like they're like 1s and 2s and 3s, and I'm like, so this is why stuff is getting backed up so badly. It's like, because the thing is people see that PSA 10 price tag and think that's how much, and then they find that card in their closet thinking it's going to be the same value, but it's not. Like a PSA 10.
That's what I always do, is tell them, like, okay, calm down. Don't look at the sticker prices on eBay. Look at the buy it now sold listing prices, but also look at your card and really look at it. Is there whitening on the card on the corners and stuff like that? Because they're always like, it looks like it's mint, and then they send me a picture, and it's like, nah, man, that's maybe like a six.
It got ran through like a washing machine. Now,
Right.
this right here is the card that everybody grew up with. This is a limited Charizard. There was a wave where everybody started buying PSA 9 Charizards like 6 months ago, and the prices were ridiculous. I remember at the height of it, PSA 9 Charizards Unlimited, not the first edition, not Shadows, but regular Unlimited. This is what we grow with. And again, for comparison, no Shadow, that's the difference here. They were selling for $6,000 to $7,000.
Wow.
Now, that's terrible. That's a terrible investment as well, because what people don't realize is you can look up the pop report. For a unlimited Charizard, where you basically anything is PSA 10, the number is going to be super low. I don't know what the exact number is top of the head, but it's probably like, I don't know, 100, maybe 300, somewhere in that neighborhood. I know for the PSA 10 regular Shadowless Charizard, not first edition, it's like in the 50s, maybe 60s and 70s. For PSA 9, we're talking about a couple hundreds. And for unlimited, at the time when it was selling for $6,000, there were over 5,000 PSA 9 Charizards in circulation. So,
wow.
Leonhart, what happens when the supply is there, but there's no more demand? The price dies. I had a friend. Do we say his? I'm gonna say his name. Nano bought a Charizard without asking me. He bought a Charizard without asking. I don't know why he wouldn't ask me. Like I'm like, bro, I can get. First of all, I could have just given you one. I had several. He bought one for like $6,000, and I'm just like, bro, why did you do this? He goes, well, I didn't want to miss out on it. By the way, FOMO is a big thing in Pokemon as well, which led to like all the craziness in the past year.
Right.
That PSA 9 Charizards right now are like $1,200, because once everybody that one-on-one bought it and there's no more demand, the supply is still there because 5,000. That's why people want PSA 10 so badly, because you know that the pop is super, super low, and if ever comes time to reselling and maybe actually holding investment value, there's actual value behind these cards in the long run. Whereas PSA 9s, not to knock PSA 9s, they're still in a very, very good condition, but a lot more exist. So like that's what I always say, and I know Leonhart, you say this all the time as well. Collect the card, don't collect really necessarily the value or like the hype around it, because at the end of the day, because people always ask me like, what are you gonna do if the prices die one day? I don't care. I never got these cards because I want to resell them or like have them be like an investment thing. I mean, yeah, they are investments, but even if the price was to go down to more to like $1, I wouldn't care, because at the end of the day, I got a piece of my childhood I always wanted, and that was my goal.
Right.
No, I completely agree. And kind of going what we were saying earlier about just like nostalgia and stuff is, I originally just did a video where I went back to the first place where I used to trade Pokemon cards and stuff, and there's like a specific spot where I did pull a Charizard. But going back to like the Charizard itself and the first edition Charizard and how it just really is like meaningful to you and meaningful to people is, whenever I see that card for myself, I know it's the Charizard and it's a really hyped up card, but it really does bring me back to the times of when I used to go to the local pool and trade cards with my friends and stuff like that.
And that's what
so
they
now
represent.
Exactly. It's like, in a way, it's like the Mona Lisa of our time.
Yeah, it's like the Honus Wagner or Mickey Mantle of Pokemon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. And when people see it, it really, there's a lot of things that come to mind, but for me, it really does bring me back to those times.
Yeah, and I think at least for a lot of people that collect those vintage cards, that's the reason why they're doing it. The one thing I do want to point out, though, or ask you guys if your thoughts on this, and this is going off of Rhyme's point that he said just to collect the card because you enjoy it, not because it's an investment. Do you feel there are a lot of people now, just based off of the increase in popularity we've seen over the past year or so, that are collecting the cards as solely an investment and not because they're actually invested in the TCG, or not because
100%.
It's nostalgic?
100%. And at the same time, I can't blame people that do that. Like, I'm not gonna knock what makes someone enjoy something. The way I've always seen it is the more people that come to a specific hobby, if you're enjoying it, even if it's just the money aspect of it, then sure, go for it, I mean, obviously you're gonna attract in like the bad apples, like the scalpers and stuff. The world, no one likes scalpers. Let's be real. Not a single person here likes a scalper, but it's unfortunately part of the hobby, regardless of what you're enjoying. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna knock someone for enjoying the value of it. End of the day, a lot of times, even before my cards were going up in value, I remember looking at them like, damn, that's a couple $100 now. This is cool. It is cool watching something grow. But I mean, I'm not gonna knock anyone for it.
Yeah, if you look, there's a lot of even new companies out there that are specifically having ways where, you may not be able to afford the $300,000 card, but it's like you can actually, with other people, invest together so you can like all partially own the card. So when I go back to like alternative assets in general, they're more popular than ever, and more people are seeing them, not just for Pokemon cards, for sports cards and comics and whatever, stamps even. It's just
That's
crazy that
ridiculous.
people are seeing the value for the collectibles and everything. And like I was kind of agree with Rhyme, the same thing. It's like I purchased these cards, way back when and stuff, and I'm just kind of along for the ride. And so I'm like, wow, it's awesome to see the values go up and stuff. But it's just kind of like, I'm just passionate about the game. And when you see the prices up, it's like, yay. And it's really interesting, but, I'm not going to fault anybody for, you want to do it. But it does bring in, of course, when anything gets popular, it brings in different, types of crowds and stuff like that.
Right,
But,
right.
Sports cards kind of went through that since they're much older. And you kind of can say that Pokemon cards has kind of gone through that recently too.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is the good news is those people aren't forever. Because if you look at any big trend that ever existed throughout humanity, those people eventually disappear. And who's gonna be there at the end of the day when stuff goes back to normal? Even right now, you're gonna notice that there's a lot less people who are more driven about the money of even like modern day Pokemon, that they disappear more and more every single day. But end of the day, who's gonna be there at the end is gonna be the true fans and the collectors of the hobby.
Right. Those are more of just like looking for a quick buck type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of come in, do what they need to do or want to try to do. And once they see it, that's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm done with this. But, kind of reminds me of like, I don't know how the PS5 world is going right now with Scalpers. Has that got any better? Because I know there's been shortages of like chips and stuff like that. So which has led to the, less PS5s being able to be developed. But at the same time, I know that situation hasn't been good as well. I don't have a PS5, by the way.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely gone down, but there's still people who are fighting to get PS5s. Unfortunately, it's that entire situation sucks. I'm just happy I got mine when I got mine. If I didn't get mine
at the very beginning too.
Yeah, if I didn't get mine in the beginning, I still wouldn't have one. That's how bad it is.
Now I had gotten mine, by the way, and I know I'm digressing just a little, but from Nebraska Furniture Mart of all places, and I was so happy that I was able to get it reserved there. And then I get a call one day and they're like, yeah, so we unfortunately actually took yours out of the box and put it on display for people to use. But we recognized that instantly and cleaned it off and put it back in the box. And so if you still want it, you can come get it, but we're going to have to charge you full price for it still. And I was just like, yeah, for the principle of this, I'm going to say no, like, especially if you're going to sell it to me for full price. So, I doomed myself by not getting one, but I'm sorry, I digress there. But
well, it's interesting the point that you brought up earlier. I just want to go back to this real quick. You mentioned that there's different plans where people can partially own cards together. When I think of that, I think of like land or like a house. It's ridiculous that a card can have that same sort of value attached to it. I just wanted to talk about that.
It is, but at the end of the day, I will be a little devil's advocate here for them, because at the end of the day, what's the point of investing in a house,
No, I know. It's just funny.
You want to make money and stuff.
It makes sense. Again, Logic put $224,000 in his Charizard, and literally a month later, it sold for like $350,000. So like, there is a value long term, and I still think at some point, even with the hype kind of slowing down, the thing is when hype dies, it doesn't mean prices all die. Like what happens is I'm gonna use Lugia as an example. Lugia back in October sold for $129,000, which was like ridiculous. Then another one sold about a month and a half later for $76,000. That's not an indication that the price died. It's just the people who are willing to spend that much basically got reduced by one, because the guy that wanted his dream card got his dream card, and then the next person in line who wanted one maxed out that much. And then I think another one sold for like $100,000 at some point a couple months later, so it kind of fluctuates. But at the end of the day, what happens is like once people get their card they want it, the next person that's willing to spend that much is reduced, and then over time, like it's like an ongoing battle. But the thing is, the cards are still always going up. Lugia selling for $76,000 wasn't an indication that the price died. It means that guy got a steal. I saw that and I'm like, are you kidding me? And then actually, matter of fact, here's another good example. Although it was BGS, there was a BGS 10 Lugia that just sold last week for $154,000. So like,
is it a BGS 10 first
it was a
edition
BGS 10, one of three.
Wow.
Again, the pop report is very, very important. But again, it shows you that the prices they go up. I still think to this day, at some point in the next maybe year or so, PSA 10 Shadowless Charizard is going to pass $1 million. So to the people who are all wanting that card, if you put in, I don't know, 50 grand, and then that card ends up selling for $1 million, and you get like 200 grand back, like it's a smart investment at the end of the day. But it's also very dangerous.
Well, it's dangerous. Yeah, just know what you're doing before putting that much money into something. But at the same time, I mean, look at all cards. Even that base set Unlimited Charizard, everything is still up from a year ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, will it ever get down to the original prices? Probably no. So in a way, if you look at it in a more long-term aspect, it's like, yeah, there was the hype, which is natural for just things in general, but you know, it calms down and we'll probably go back up again sometime later on. But if you look at the whole grand scheme of things, like everything is up in general, like a lot from even a year ago.
I mean, it's like I was just gonna say, it's like any kind of market, right? You get the peaks and valleys fluctuating constantly.
Exactly.
Because like even the PSA 9 Charizard, which is like $1,200 now, again, it dropped from $6 grand. A year ago, it was $200. That's still a big increase. And at some point in the next, I don't know,
what percentage is that for the mathematical guy over here of increase from $200 to what was it, $6,000? No, now it's $1,200. Like, what's the percentage increase of something that's $200 and then like a year later now it's like what, Rhyme, $1,200?
That's like 600% increase, right?
Something like that. So that's still an insane increase.
Yeah. And at some point it's going to hit $6 grand again, and beyond that and beyond that. The thing that makes me sick is like, again, I hate talking about money when it comes down to Pokemon, but again, to just kind of show you like the evolution of it.
Yeah.
The card I wanted the most for the longest was a PSA 10 Lugia. When I got back in the hobby, thanks to this guy over here, Leonhart, discovered his channel back when he had like 20K subs.
That was Evolution.
Evolution,
I think.
he had like 20K subs, and then I fell into this pit and I just couldn't get out. But the card I wanted the most wasn't Charizard, because at the time I thought Charizard was just too expensive. And it's funny because looking back at it, that was like a $300 card at the time. It was a PSA 10. I wanted Lugia. And I kept getting every single first edition Lugia that I came across on the internet. I think I graded a total of 21 plus PSA 9s. And every single time when I got it, I would basically just resell them so I can get more money and basically, you know, buy more cards. I think on average, I sold every single one of those Lugias for like $100 to $200 as PSA 9s. Because again, there wasn't that much hype behind that card. Nobody cared about Lugia until about 2 years ago. Well, not nobody, but you know what I mean? Like as far as like the chase card. So
going by, oh, sorry, go.
I was gonna say PSA 9 Lugia today is like a $9,000 card, and I had 20 of those that I sold for $100 to $200 each. That's not like selling my cards anymore, because I'm like, well, you know what? Unless I really need the money, I just know at some point if I do gotta sell it.
Yeah, that's crazy. How many did you have?
I had over 20. Because like my logic was behind it was like, I don't like selling cards, but basically once I have a card in my collection, I have that one, you know. So I had a PSA 9 that I kept, and then the others were just extras that I would just get rid of, you know, so I can get more packs and stuff like that. And I'm thinking like, okay, well if I sell these Lugias, I can get more Neo Genesis packs. And
it reminds me of back in 2012 and 13 when I had rated a first edition base at Charizard and it came back a PSA 10, and I was in the middle of my SMU where I went to law school election law class, saw my PSA results, and I started screaming in the middle of the class and just ran outside of the class. And the teacher to this day is still like, what the heck is going on? And I literally was like, my card came back a PSA 10, everybody. And we're like talking about boring election law. One guy in the corner is like cheering, like, yeah, I know what he's talking about. And I ended up having to sell that card to help pay for rent and stuff at the time. And at the time, I think I sold it for a grand total of, which is a lot and still is a lot today, $2,300. So imagine if I held on to that card. That's now an almost $400,000 more than that card. So I don't have any regrets though. Like, I know that's crazy to say, because like now I'm just grateful to be in the position, like I have a first edition base set box now. I have the card back. Going on to when Rhyme was talking about when he first saw my channel.
You got your signed.
And I got it signed too several years ago by Mitsuhiro Arita, the original illustrator for it. And I have a video of his face, and he was like lit up when he was like signing it and stuff like that. Hopefully he was not pissed off, but he seemed like he was enjoying it. But going back to 2016 when Rhyme first saw my channel, the first edition base set Charizard every single month was going up several $1,000s because of the hype, because of evolutions in Pokemon Go. So that was like the first, like, for the 20th anniversary big push of the first edition Charizard. And I was like, should I bite and buy the card? Because it would be like 1 week it was $8,000 or something, next week it was $10,000, then it was $13,000 several weeks after that or something. And then I think I bit the bullet and bought the current one that I have right now off of eBay PWCC for $18,000, which at the time I was sweating, man. That's a insane ton of money. But I mean, look now, that's why I don't have any regrets, because obviously I got it back. It's an insanely strong one, meaning it looks I had it graded by Beckett, actually. It's 0.5 away from getting a Beckett Pristine 10.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why I don't have any regrets, but that also shows like the first big hypeness was when Pokemon Go, a simpler time when everybody, including my old boss, would play Pokemon Go back then.
I remember that was the first time I spent a lot on the card. I remember Toronto randomly had a first edition Charizard that popped up, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna buy it. I bought it for $1,200, and I'm thinking at the time like, this is stupid. You're stupid. You just spent $1,200 on a single card. Got it graded. It came back a 7. I remember that hurt. As a 7, it was still worth more. I think it was worth like $1,500. That's kind of like how I justified it. But then another one popped up the next day for $2,000, and I bought it. PSA 8. And another one popped up the next day for $2,000, and I bought it. And I'm thinking like, Rhyme, you can't do this. You can't do this. And I'm looking back at it. If you find a near mint Charizard today, it's like $20,000 plus, even if it's like in 7 condition, because people don't really know what it might grade. So everyone's like super taxing on the prices of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, 2016. The thing that reminds me of 2016 the most is I remember it got to a point where cards are getting kind of expensive, and expensive back then meant like it was a couple $100s. I kind of gave up on Pokemon temporarily and started buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And I remember I was buying a bunch of Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon cards for like $20 to $30 each.
Wow.
Graded them all. Dang. They all came back as 10s and 9s, and I remember I handed them out to my friends. I'm like, hey man, if you know, I know you grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh, here's a little present, and it's like, now if you find a LOB Blue Eyes even beat up, it's like $4,000. I'm just like,
that's ridiculous, man.
What were you doing?
Yeah, and I'm think like, how many did I? How
like,
many
hey man, can I have that back?
You still want that?
I actually did that. I actually asked the person that I sold my card. I was like, I probably still have their email. And this was several years ago, actually. So I contacted them like, yeah, I think I'm just going to hold on to it. That was a good move on their part. I tried.
Yeah.
At least I tried.
Just going back to something you said earlier, Leonhart, that I think is important just to convey to people watching this is that you can't really be regretful for making a decision. Like you said, you have no regrets for selling the card for what was like $2,300 you said was.
Yeah,
and I think that's important too, because that not only does that go for Pokemon, it goes for like anything that you're investing in, right? I think about stocks when I think about this sort of thing, but it's like I have friends, family friends, who back in like the late '90s sold like thousands of dollars of Apple stock. I have people who sold Bitcoin back for like $5, right when it was brand new.
That one hurts.
So it's like, you can have these sorts of things happen, but you can't beat yourself up. You can't beat yourself up over it or have regrets because of from that, because it's impossible to know what's going to happen, right? And it's impossible to see in the future.
And try to go into it just, with what you're able to spend. Try to be smart about it. Like, I'm able to spend this. You're comfortably, so you can still live. So you're going into it. Hopefully, you're making a risk adverse, or I don't know, whatever you think type of decision that you make. So it's like, you're going into it knowing the consequences or the rewards of what can happen. So that's kind of what, I didn't really have a choice though selling it, and too much of a choice. But I don't have any regrets though of selling it, especially now.
That's why there's a lot of FOMO also in Pokemon though, because like I know Randolph, he bid on like, I want to say like 3 different Dragonites a couple of PWCCs ago. And he won all of them because he's like, I wanted to make sure I win them, and he ended up winning all of them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Good news is now he has that many. You can probably sell one back and make literally all the money back that you spent on one. But FOMO is definitely a thing, even for me, because I remember last year when everything was going crazy, and I'm like, I need to get some of these boxes, man. Like, I know, Leonhart, I remember I bought your Aquapolis box. I still have the Aquapolis
Oh
box.
gosh. Good, you better never open that.
I'm never opening it. I already have.
You
the
don't have to
Lugia.
say the price. You don't have to say how much I sold it to you for, but I will say it was a very friendly friend price of especially what it's worth now.
Yeah, and at the same time, the FOMO aspect is I remember I also bought your Japanese base box, and
Oh yeah.
I'm happy that I opened it because I pulled 5 Blastoise and they all came back as 10s. But
That was worth it for that.
yeah, but now I'm looking at the price of a Japanese base box. I'm like, what happened? No, actually, it's funny. So in the process, I still have this. In the process of me buying your box, I bought one of these. And I remember I paid $1,500 for these because I was going to do the same thing.
What is it, by the way? Since
Oh yeah,
I can't
it's a Japanese Neo box. I was going to open this. I was going to open this, and then I remember by the time I finished opening your box, I looked at the price and I'm like, maybe we don't open this. Maybe we just leave it. So like, FOMO is definitely a thing that can get you bad, because I'm looking back every time I see my video pop up on my recommended, I'm just like, why did I do this?
Hey, I opened one and didn't even pull a Charizard for mine. I think I pulled a whole carton of eggs, if I remember. It was like all chances. Like
yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
I just want to go back quickly to we talked earlier about the grading, the PSA and the Beckett getting super backed up, right?
Yeah.
I just want to. I've actually always wondered this. Does that affect other card games as well? Like if you sent in, I don't know, a sports card to get graded, or I don't know, like a Magic card to get graded, or something like that, that isn't related to Pokemon. Does that get affected by the backlog of Pokemon cards being sent in, or no?
Absolutely.
Like as far as like time?
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, every single one has like their gaming. Like Beckett has their own gaming people that do grading. Same with PSA, CGC. And sports has their own type of thing. So it's like no matter what the TCG is, it's going to back it up. And sports has their own people, and you know that's backed up as well too.
Right. So
I think when PSA announced their prices going up, they received like 3 million submissions that week.
That yeah, because everyone wants to get it in before they went up. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I don't think people necessarily knew, or maybe they knew what's happening, so they wanted to like quickly get it in before they got, you know, the price went up.
Oh, like yeah.
Yeah, but like that's why they had to close. Like they doubled their prices because maybe they assumed maybe this is going to get people to slow down submissions, and then they got 3 million submissions. And then they were like, you know what? Let's just close until July because we have to get them.
Yeah. It's because if you send in, I was gonna say, if you send in a card now, like what are the wait times you're looking at?
Oh God. So I actually experiment with it. I sent an there's tiers. You got economy, you got regular, you got express, and you got super express. Super Express is ungodly fast. It cost 200 back when I sent my card in, which is 300 now.
Is that for PSA?
Yeah, for PSA. I sent them my first appearance Lugia, the Topps card, and they graded it in 4 days. And by the way, in 4 days, I'm talking about they received it, they graded it, and sent it back. Within 4 days, it was back in my hands. That's ridiculously fast.
Yeah.
Express, I pulled the shiny Charizard from Shining Fates. I sent it an express, and this was a $75 submission. I believe it's like 100 now, somewhere in that neighborhood. And this is supposed to be, I want to say, like a 2-week process. But I sent it in February, and I got that card back 2 weeks ago.
No way.
It shows you the gap. It shows you the gap. And again, for regular and economy, I sent them my stuff back in August, and I'm just now starting to get some of that stuff back.
If you're sending something economy, you can have a kid, and it would already be born by the time the kid is actually, you know.
Yeah, it's
how long the stuff is taken.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
I'm hoping that they can catch up and figure out how to optimize it. You know, because the thing is
I think they will, because PSA has new ownership.
Yeah,
and
they're
also
printing
Beckett
money.
and CGC. Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're printing money. I had a terrible experience with Beckett actually.
Oh wait, I think I saw something about that you did.
So
I'm curious on that.
Just to summarize it, basically. So that Lugia that I got back from, actually it's right here. That Lugia I got back from
the Topps Lugia?
Yeah, from PSA. I sent it in under the same level of submission service to Beckett, which would have been, it was like a $300 submission. It's on their website, it says 10 to 15 days. And I remember I asked all my friends that do this all the time. They're like, yeah, usually I send the card in on Monday and I get it back by Friday. It's fast. It's very, very good. I'm like, okay. Well, you know what? It's expensive. I really want this card. I really wanted to be encapsulated in this case because I think Topps card looked way better in Beckett cases. And in general, Beckett cases are a lot nicer. It took 2 months plus to get this back. And I remember Like I get anxiety, by the way. The worst part about grading with Beckett is they don't tell you that they have your stuff. With PSA, you can see at what level your cards is, like received, research and grading, and then QA, and then shipping. Like you know what's happening to your cards. With Beckett, you just mail the card in, and all you have is the notification you're tracking that says delivered. And I'm like, okay, well, did they get it? It's not a system yet.
Well, technically, it's supposed to, like, on their online, supposed to say, like, when they get it, I think.
It
but they don't update that. They don't
Yeah.
update that all the time because, honestly, the system is, like, they're so backed up there.
It's old, yeah.
It's pretty bad.
So I get anxiety. So I emailed the person that I was.
You got anxiety? Did you lose your card for 5 months?
You know exactly what I'm
talking
talking about. But I get anxiety, so I email. I'm like, hey, just let you know I sent it, and she'd be like, yeah, we received them. I'm like, cool. And I'm like, just so we know, it is premium. I'm paying you $300 for this. Yeah, no problem. It's in the processing. Perfect. Month passes. I'm like, so maybe it's backed up. Maybe all premium level grading are just backed up. And I'm talking to my friends. I'm like, yeah, I just sent it in last week and I got my cards back already. I'm like, huh? Maybe it was just a fluke. Ask another friend. Yeah, I got my card back in a week. I'm like, wait, what's going on? And I emailed them. I'm like, so my premium express, what's going on with that? No response. And I emailed them again, no response. Okay, at this point, I'm like, okay, now they're just kind of ignoring me. Did they lose my card? And I remember I tweeted about it. And because I tweeted about it, obviously I have a following on Twitter. They respond to my tweet and they were like, oh, you got to check in with your person. And I'm like, great. Well, what do I do? No response. I'm like, please, someone tell me what's going on. So I sent out another tweet like a couple weeks later. I'm like, I seriously need to know what's going on. Like at this point, it has to be lost. Then they hit me on Twitter to DM me, like we're figuring it out. Another week passes, we're trying to figure out, trying to locate your cards. I'm like, what do you mean you're trying to locate I get you probably have a giant warehouse with cards and cards and cards, but like, how did you mess up this badly? And then, this is the part that killed me. So I'm like, okay, just out of curiosity, are you still gonna charge me for super premium? Because, we're talking about a $300 fee versus like a $150 fee. Because at this point, I'm at a $150 level. I think for $150 level, you get like your card back within like 1 or 2 months. And we're there now. And she had the audacity to say, no, we can't do that. I'm like, how am I paying for something but you're not providing the service? Are you kidding me? And I finally get my card back. I'm happy. I'm excited. As a collector, all I want is just my card back. And I see that they still charge me like $320, and they didn't even apologize afterwards. I'm like, how? Literally, how?
It came back a good grade though, right?
It's an 8.5. I'm happy about that. But I'm like, how is this okay?
Yeah.
That's just how the grading scene is though right now. And so you have players like CGC that's out there that's really trying to, make a name for themselves and, be a stickler for, disciplined grading and timing, but, they're not obviously as established and been around as long as Beckett and PSA. So I'm curious to see how, once more people start submitting with them, if they do, to see how they will handle it, because the whole thing is kind of crazy. Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're actually they're falling because the thing is, it's like everyone went to CGC because they couldn't go to PSA or Beckett.
Right.
But now CGC is facing the exact same issues that they were. So it's like,
army of graders.
Yeah, I personally am not a big fan of CGC just because I've been using PSA my entire life, and the only reason why I even want to use Beckett is because I think they have the best cases. They feel so good.
They do.
But aside that, I don't want to add another like competitor or like into my collection of cards because it just feels weird. It sticks out. That makes sense. It's like you've been drinking Coke all your life and then you start drinking Pepsi. It's like it's the same thing, but like you like Coke better. Like
yeah, and I think that's just something that's it's really hard for more companies to start doing what they do just because they're already so well established in the industry. It's like you said, it's like Coke and Pepsi have this big rivalry. It's kind of like Beckett and PSA. There's not going to be a new soda that's like literally just Coke and Pepsi that comes out that's going to start competing with them because it's impossible. They have the economies of scale already.
Oh, they tried. There's the signature brand, the store brand, not Coke, but like Snoke or something like that you see in like the aisles or something like that.
Yeah, but that's like local stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what surprised me about CGC is there are other good grading companies. Like I know SGC is one, and they're pretty good. They know what they're doing. I'm surprised that more people didn't go to like SGC. Is it SGC what I'm thinking of? The one with the Charizard?
There is an SGC, but I think that was more so like for sports cards or something like that. But there was that one Charizard that was in really good condition from, I don't know if it was them or somebody else.
That was like the best looking Charizard I've ever seen in my entire life. Because I remember when I first saw it sold for 360 grand, I'm like, that doesn't make sense for it's not even PSA or Beckett. But now look at that, I'm like, wait a minute.
And
That
then
card,
you look at it and you're like, that's hot, man.
that card could cross into a BGS 10 potential. I still think it could black label.
Probably could.
And for reference to the people at home, black label basically is when you grade with Beckett, you see your subgrades over here. If it's a 10, it could be a 10, 10, 10, and then 9.5. Black label means it's all 10, and then you get like a little fancy black label with your card.
Which is fancy, I gotta say. Really fancy.
Yeah.
But very difficult to get. Like, incredibly, you know, that's the difference between English and Japanese cards. It's easier to get it in Japanese, or less difficult, I should say. So if you get one in English, and there's none of a first edition base set Charizard, there's, I believe, 3 or 4 BGS 10s, not black labels of Charizard, but, you know, I can only imagine the price of one if there ever is one that can be a black label.
I'm not even kidding. Label. If a black label first edition Shadow Charizard ever came into the scene, I could see it selling easily for $2 to $5 million. I'm not.
I was gonna say it's like easily over $1 million, but like,
oh
who knows
boy,
after that? Sky's the limit.
You guys are tempting me to start getting into actually collecting now.
Uh-oh. Do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Now, I've been thinking about it. It's just like, do I really want to?
You do collect, because you collect. I know you collect the Drama Heroes cards.
I collect.
You sent me. I was actually going through my stuff yesterday, and I still have the cards you sent me like a year and a half ago when you sent me that promo Mewtwo card.
Yeah, I have a big collection of hero stuff. I mean, it's not anywhere close to Pokemon, but and I have experience with collecting different things. I actually do collect coins, rare coins. I collect heroes cards,
nice.
But it's in terms of like this scale, like I don't really mess with it, but I have been tempted before. I have real life friends that I grew up with that do still, like, they have like all their collection they had when they were growing up, they still have everything. They have sealed packs, they have stuff like that. So like I am connected with people that do have decent sized collections.
I'm gonna say it right now. If you send your heroes cards to Beckett, which they do great, by the way, I would watch those return videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. The problem is once you send those cards in, you can't play with them. But I've been thinking about
play with them.
I do play with them, yeah. I've been thinking about like buying 2 of each net, I guess, just to like have one sealed in like a case that's graded, and then one to actually use.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's a tough decision. I mean, like we just talked about this entire time. Is it something you really want to sink time into and get into? And at the end of the day, it's just a personal decision. But the last topic I really do want to talk about before we wrap up, and I know this has gone on for longer than I expected, but I've been enjoying this discussion so far, is we've seen, along with the increase in popularity, a lot of sort of like negative backlash when it comes to like the whole scalper thing. I remember there was a video that went viral on Twitter. I think it was a few days ago, or maybe like a week ago or so. I think it was a Target that opened, and there was people that were just like bum rushing into like the Pokemon aisle, buying everything.
That was a Walmart, might I add, and they were going after sports cards, not Pokemon cards. Because you can see there was a Elite Trainer box of Pokemon that they did not go for, actually, probably Crimson Invasion. But yeah, there has been so much negativity on that, and I purposely have been going, like I went on Inside Edition recently, because they were going to totally clickbait and use that to just spread more negativity for Pokemon.
Right,
so what I'm trying to do is go on these reluctantly, because I don't really like going on the news too much. They thankfully made an actual good report, even though some of the information is wrong factually as far as like prices of some of the cards. They still didn't really harp on the whole scalpers running into the store and stuff. However, there has been so much negativity, like you're saying, and a lot of the news places and websites have been using Pokemon instead of sports cards in their headlines to be like, viral video of grown men running into a Walmart. Not saying that guys didn't do this for Pokemon, because I can go into a Walmart right now, especially on a Thursday and Friday, and it's so awkward and creepy to see grown men waiting in the kids area, like the clothing area, because it's directly across the aisle from where they stock cards. So because they're waiting for the distributor person to come and stock the shelves.
Right.
And then they go and attack the shelves.
You know why they're doing that too? Why they're using Pokemon? Because again, go back to what I was saying, not everybody grow up with sports cards, but everybody grow up with Pokemon. Pokemon is more likable and more clickable. That's why, like, I've always been saying this for like the last couple of years. Like, Pokemon has way more potential as a card fandom than anything out there. Because like, yeah, sports cards are massive, so it's Magic, but with Pokemon, everybody grew up with it. Just the values behind it, the collector aspects behind it. That's why everyone kept saying Pokemon. And I remember that clip, when that clip went viral, it was talking about like, wow, I can't believe people are doing this with Pokemon cards. I'm like, I mean, Yeah, they are. But the thing is, all the big clips that went viral were for sports cards. Because there's another clip where a guy got knocked out.
Oh gosh, there was.
Yeah,
Oh,
the guy
God.
got knocked out in the parking lot and they were for Pokemon cards. I'm like, it's sports.
Oh.
They're saying sports in the video, guys.
And that was the reason why Target and Walmart had stopped selling cards temporarily. Now they're selling them again, thankfully. But it was because of a fight over sports cards at a Target outside. Maybe that's the same thing you're talking about. It wasn't over Pokemon cards, but again, all the news was using Pokemon cards. So thankfully, like Rhyme was also saying, you know, those scalpers usually kind of just come and go for the most part, and especially with Pokemon now amping up the supply and purchasing more warehouses to actually be able to, you know, meet the demand, you know, with products now being able to just hopefully stay on shelves and just be on shelves in the first place, maybe that and hopefully, and that should deter, you know, the scalpers away and more of that negativity, so people can just walk into a store like they used to and grab a pack.
Yeah, and I think that I thank you for clearing that up, because I actually didn't know that. I assumed it was Pokemon because that's what everyone was saying, but
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
At least for me, like looking at something like that, and I assume like obviously that video specifically was about sports, not Pokemon. There are people like you mentioned that are there to just instantly like wipe the shelves of all Pokemon once they're stocked.
Right.
For me, the thing that really like sort of hits home for me is like if I'm a kid, I'm not gonna be able to get them because all the adults are trying to grab them before me, right? So if like I'm that kid after baseball practice on Saturday afternoon trying to go grab a pack or two from the store, they're gonna be sold out. So just like the limiting factor for like a kid being able to buy cards is what really just sort of like makes me kind of angry about that.
Yeah, it's really irked me, and that's why, you know, I literally am currently giving away my entire modern Pokemon card collection just to people, no like catches or anything like that, just because all this stuff is just pissing me off, because honestly it also affects, you know, creators like myself, maybe Rhyme too, where people just see those headlines and then they start attacking creators and stuff like that, thinking like we're the issues,
this is your
we're
fault,
the problem.
Right?
You're the reason why, you know, you bought out the entire store. No, it's not. The scalpers did. You bought 1,000 zillion packs, so or 10 packs or something like that, and you're the reason supply is down. No, that's because of the pandemic took that. So it's like I just try to educate people and go against these misleading headlines and stuff like that, because there is a lot of backlash against, you know, great creators out there and Pokemon in general, you know. Try to be an ambassador for the brand.
Somebody
especially because they don't really talk that much.
Somebody definitely attacked me on Twitter a couple of weeks ago about that, and I'm like, I literally haven't even opened cards on my channel in months. Like, how am I the reason why you can't buy packs? I literally barely do it. The other thing with me is usually whenever cards come out, I just honestly will just buy them online from card shops and stuff. Like I will very rarely go into the store and be like, you know what, I'm about to go clear out the entire shelf. First of all, I've never done that. I have had moments before where I bought like, you know, 2 or 3 boxes out of a shelf before, but that I already did that when they had like a ton of stuff. Like, you know, like I remember a couple weeks ago I went and I saw that Target had a bunch of classic legacy packs for Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm talking about they had shelves of it. And I remember I bought like 15 packs, and even then I'm thinking to myself, that's a lot. But I look back,
I know
I'm not even kidding. There was like 40 packs on the shelf still. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could take 15. But like, it is funny watching.
Bad.
Yeah.
It just makes you think, because of how crazy, you know, things have been, where it's even like getting 5, 10 packs. You're like, man, like, what's going on here? Like feeling a little guilty, but it's like the amount of packs that are actually being produced, and it's like you taking 10 packs from a store, like that's not going to make a difference. It's when you have constantly people, you know, ransacking multiple stores in the Metroplex, because the amount of Targets, Walmarts that are, especially here in Dallas, for instance, it's like a Starbucks. You walk across the street, there's another Walmart, there's another Target. So it's like the scalpers that are systematically, you know, taking over these stores. That's the people that you should be mad at, you know?
And it's also people assuming too, because I remember even when they had the McDonald's cards, I got attacked. I'm like, I didn't even open them.
I remember that fiasco. Yeah.
McDonald's is on the cards because of you. I'm like, I haven't even opened them. How would that be my fault?
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. As Leonhard said, the best thing you can do is educate, and that's something that I personally try to do, and I know you do as well, Leonhard. We try to educate people the best that we can, and if at the end of the day someone still like basically creates that narrative about you, like it is what it is. You're not gonna be able to change their mind.
Right.
Like once someone decides that they don't like you for whatever reason, like that's it. That's their decision. Like it is what it is. But neither one of us condones clearing out an entire shelf, nor do we ever even do it.
I can't. Clearing out an entire shelf just sounds so weird to say it.
No, I think the The last time I had went to a store was actually over a year ago, and that was when I had purchased boxes to go donate to the local children's hospital. I'm sorry, I'm being wholesome right now. What can I say? But no, I usually do what Ryan says. I usually will just pre-order it online or something like that if I get something.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best way to do it anyway. It's just easier, right? At the end of the day, instead of just going to a store.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the points that I had for discussion, that pretty much wraps everything up. Unless you guys have anything else to say or add on to this, I think I am good to wrap up the video here. Anything else you guys want to add, or are we good?
I want to add one quick thing.
Sure.
This is something that's been bothering me for like the past couple of months. People put way too much stock into modern day cards. Like, for example, the reason why people are scalping like crazy is because they're trying to flip the cards, you know, and they think that they're worth way more than they actually are. Like, I'll never forget when Hidden Fates came out, the very first, granted it was a black label and there is a premium behind it, the very first Charizard that graded a 10, black label 10, sold for over $10,000. And I remember that's when the wave kind of started. People saw that's what I was talking about. People saw that modern day cards sell for that much, and it started going crazy. People started clearing out the shelves for Hidden Fates and every set after that. I think that's honestly when the wave really like tipped. And the thing is, that same Charizard today as a PSA 10 is like $900. And the reason why is because every card today is usually produced in a much better quality. Almost every person that pulled a Charizard out of Hidden Fates or even Shining Fates, it graded as a 10. Stop putting so much stock into modern day cards, you know, for the purposes of making money. Because what's going to happen is, I mean, let's say if you're first, sure. If the first, like, let's say Pokemon Company drops a Charizard next week, special delivery Charizard actually. Let's say that it comes out next week, and the first one that grades a 10, I guarantee you is going to sell for like, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 because people are going to want it. But you know what's going to happen a year after that when 1,000 of those exist as PSA 10s, it's going to be worth next to nothing.
Right,
So,
and they're reprinting the sets too. Like they just did a Hidden Fates reprint too.
Super reprinting it. See, it's like everybody was fighting each other for, you know, when Shining Fates came out, everyone was fighting each other trying to get that Charizard. And I'm over here just waiting. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just wait. I'm gonna just wait until the card is like a nice price, get a grade, potentially pull it myself, and then, you know, spend minimally to get that into my collection. But like right now, the problem is so many people are like just going crazy, putting all the stock into cards that are coming out now. And then granted, 10 years from now, those cards could be worth what cards from today, from 10 years ago are worth. Sure. But the thing is, it's like everything right now is all hype, and hype is temporary in regards to like for like newer stuff. So just kind of keep that in mind. So
yeah, I agree, and I think things will get better. I think things will get better, and they're already starting to get better with more packs starting to get on shelves and stuff again. And I think Scalpers lessening. So hang in there. I think things will get better soon.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a real life friend who's pretty much did the same exact thing you just did, Ryan, with the newer cards, where it's like people are looking at the old cards and they're like, oh my god, like these cards are going to be worth so much later on. And it's like nobody back then, like during the base set times, were actively like buying out boxes and packs just to hold on to them and keep these cards in good condition. Like I was talking before we started recording the video, I just for like whatever reason went and took a look at like my collection that I had when I was a kid. My Charizard, I have that, like I think it was just an unlimited version of the base set Charizard. It has like the corners like peeling, like it's like ripped, like it's in like terrible shape. But that's like a normal condition, I think, for like a lot of people who were growing up. Like they didn't care, but they didn't take care of their cards like they were gold or anything like that. So now people are a lot more conscientious about how they're going to handle their cards. You know, they put them in sleeves instantly. They're kept in a safe location. Exactly. Yeah. So I think moving forward, especially from you know, where we are right now and the mindset that people have when they're purchasing these cards, is that these things are not going to be worth nearly as much later on. So I agree with what you were saying earlier. But with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Again, I want to thank both Leonhart and Rhyme for both coming on the channel. I'm actually like, this is crazy that I'm on this video with you guys. Like I've been watching both of your content for a very, very long time, multiple years. So for me to be on here, it's a big honor for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Appreciate the time as always. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have a link to both their YouTube channels down below. If you guys are not subbed, I would very, very highly advise you go check out their channels. And with that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.